Hey, thanks for tuning in to Unfair Sports. While you're here, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. Got one for you. I've got a curious question. I think this will be a fun conversation we can have here on the pod. So thanks everybody for tuning in or whatnot. Please hit share. Sharing is caring. Leave a comment, rate us and review us and all of that jazz. Jimmy, have you ever been in a circumstance where you send the text message to the wrong person?
Yes, once or twice. Yes, I did.
You have a story for us?
I do not. The only story is, well, I had one female friend that I meant to text, but I texted a different one. So I tried. So basically, I finessed that comment into making it seem like I meant it for the person who I didn't mean it for.
Okay.
And I mean, it wasn't like a major comment, so it was something simple. So I was able to get out of it. I mean, it was simple, but it didn't fit the context of the conversation we had been having. So that freaked me out. Got out of it, freaked me out. But I said to myself, from here on out, I will always look at the name before I send the text message.
That makes sense.
Especially if it's someone who has a name of somebody else in my contacts list, I'll make sure it's the right person if there's someone else with that same first name.
Yeah, that is true. So, and it's funny because we had a story, of course, this past whole week. So I was out most of last week on vacay, so really getting to talk about this like we really wanted to. Yeah. But our guy Brian Flores is of course suing the NFL, suing some organizations, the Broncos, the Giants, and I believe the Dolphins in that lawsuit as well.
Yes, they are.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I looked at it, couldn't remember if they were all three in, but he's suing them for racial discrimination in the hiring process. And one piece that was added to that, everybody has at least seen it by now. At least I hope everyone that's listening and watching have seen this at least by now. Is that Bill Belichick sent Flores some text messages. He sent them to Brian,
right?
It went to Brian Flores instead of Brian Dabble, the offensive coordinator and now head coach of the Giants. So for the context, for those that are not initiated, he sent them and basically said, congratulations on the job. Flores is like, oh, you got some inside track. So you've heard something. It's like, yep, you're their guy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, cool. Wait a minute. Do you know which Brian? This is Brian Flores, right? Oh, damn. This was supposed to go to Dable. My bad. And this was before Flores had even interviewed with the Giants. So that's where the controversy comes in. I empathize with my man, Bill Belichick. I understand the pain of having people in your phone with the same first names. The mother of both my children have the same first name. I have lucked out on that one, right? I guess that's the thing that I have attracted as a person. And, if my buddy's listening to this, he's cracking up right now because he's been giving me shit about this for like the last 15 years. So if you're listening, Jim, don't say anything. I don't even want to hear your voice at this point.
His name is Jim? His name is Jim?
My boy, my boy Jim. Which another Jim. Like,
there we go.
Exactly. Multiple people I know have the same names, and I have a tendency of running across them. And I haven't had a circumstance where a text message was sent to the wrong person, because I thought about that initially and made sure that the names that are in there are not the same. They go off the nicknames that they're supposed to go off of. That way, that accident never happens. The last thing you want is send one woman a message that's supposed to be earmarked to another one, and the world comes to an end. So with that, let's dive into this lawsuit. Jimmy, I think Flores may have something here. I watched the interview he did on Get Up with his lawyers and Mike Greenberg. Kind of talked through why he's doing it, why he felt like he needs to be, I guess you could say, a martyr in this situation, potentially throwing his entire career away. And his lawyers mentioned that litigation is usually the one way to get things to happen because of, obviously, the Rooney Rule isn't working. So, Jimmy, what's your thoughts on this lawsuit that Flores has decided to dive into in order to try to stimulate some change in the NFL's hiring process?
I think that I think that the majority of what he's saying, if not everything that he's saying, is definitely true. I tend to lean in that direction. Now, I know that this has to be litigated in the proper way, and that we shouldn't be fair to the organizations, just like we wouldn't want someone to be unfair to Brian Flores and say that these are without merit. But part of what the reaction was, a lot of times the reaction will tell you whether or not someone has guilt or some guilt to what they're being accused of.
Right.
Because if you'll notice, each organization that he is suing, the NFL, the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, and the Miami Dolphins, all categorically and vehemently deny all claims. So either Brian Flores, who is one of the most respected men, let alone coaches, men in the NFL, known to be honest, trustworthy, and morally upstanding, either he is choosing to lie about all these things as he's trying to get a job in the NFL, or there is definitely some wrongdoing on the part of these organizations. And the NFL's response was unbelievably disgusting. And the reason why is this. When his claims came out, when they became public, before any investigation or any litigation had been done, within 2 hours, the NFL released a statement that said these claims were without merit. How the NFL is great of an organization as they can be and as smart as they can be, they do tend to make some really dumb mistakes that make them look even worse, and this was one of them. How would you even know that these are without merit unless you have investigated them? And what they said what they said to clean that up was that, oh, we were talking about this part of the allegations, not everything as a whole. Like, okay, NFL, nice try, nice damage control, but you've already screwed
reel it back in. They had to reel it all back in. And you're right. I think the thing that jumped out to me was because it only took them 2 hours to throw that response out there, someone sent them a message and said, hey, we messed up. I'm wondering if it was Robert Kraft that sent a message to the league and said, hey, Belichick did this. It's coming down the pipe. Watch out. Our bad. We screwed up. Somebody had to tip them off because there's absolutely no reason for them to come out with anything until they investigate. Why would you not wait for at least some sort of due process to go through before you make a response? So you're exactly right. That was ridiculous for them to even respond. Then, of course, they backtrack. Roger Goodell sends out a memo to all the teams, say we need to do better, blah, blah, blah. I get it. The problem is that the issue isn't the NFL. It's the 32 owners that own the team. They own the league. Like, a lot of people don't understand that Roger Goodell does not have as much power as you think he does. Roger Goodell works for the owners, and his job is to keep organization and eliminate as much chaos as possible for the owners and make them as much money as possible. That's his job. If they want to, they can fire his ass tomorrow. He's done a really good job making the money, so it's really hard to justify firing someone that's got the relationships you need to keep that money machine going. You know, he's printing money for them basically. But the NFL does have a problem, and I think that Flores is right. I believe that he was potentially discriminated against, and the problem is systemic, but the solution isn't as simple as we're trying to say it. So, like, for example, one of the big things a lot of people was mentioning, and his lawyers mentioned in the conversation with Greenberg, is that there's no minority. Well, there's only one minority owner. There's no black owners. You got Shah Khan with the Jags, but you have no black owners. And then the Packers are owned by like 48,000 people or something like that. You don't have any minorities that own the team. The biggest problem you have is that there's 8 or 9 black billionaires, and we know every single one of them. But Monty Jones was mentioning this on last week's Foxworth Friday with Dominique Foxworth, and he made some valid points with, we know all the black billionaires. Most of y'all don't know who the white billionaires are that own these teams. I do, because I'm fascinated by it, so I know who they are. But there's not enough of them to go out and buy teams. There's not enough of them with money that can go out and buy teams and represent teams. That's the one thing. The second problem you run into is you get one black owner in there. You think he's going to only hire black people? How does that look? Right? Then everybody's going to complain about that. oh, it's so unfair. They're discriminating against white people. They're not allowing white people to interview. And it's like, no matter what, it's a lose-lose scenario. It's so systemic and so ingrained. I don't even know if there's truly a solution for it, honestly, in the next 20 years. It's going to take time to slowly break that down for as owners slowly leave the league and you get to a point where you can have at least 4 or 5 owners that are black. Then you may have an opportunity, but you got to find some black billionaires that are into football, that want to spend $2 to $4 billion for a team. Jimmy, imagine spending $2 to $4 billion on. I mean, we can't imagine it. We broke.
No,
These
sir.
people, $2 to $4 billion on a team. That's how much it's going to cost to get one. It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy. So the biggest issue in all this is that there are so many layers that have to be peeled back, that the unfortunate thing is that you got to just hope and pray that some of these white owners will hire some black general managers, at least more of them, so that we can have the opportunity to see some of these black coaches get jobs that aren't cleanup jobs, like our boy that we just got hired in Houston. So,
well, so all right. So for you, because I know that this is probably going to drag itself out at least for a year or two, because big cases like this with very public allegations that involve multiple billionaires usually aren't going to be resolved by next week. It's going to take a lot of time. There are going to be a lot of, now what I'm really interested in is the people who get deposed for this in order to give statements, in order to give information about if there was some guilt. So like, for instance, you talked about Bill Belichick. And for some reason, I think that is just so funny that someone like him, who is so meticulous when it comes to paying attention to details, is a part of this, a part of something that you would never, ever think that he would be a part of. So, it's going to take a while for this to go ahead.
I think he did it on purpose.
And there are theories that he did.
I think he did it on purpose. And I love a good conspiracy theory too.
Go ahead, give us one.
I am on that boat of that conspiracy theory.
Right, so what do you think? He did it on purpose. Okay, why? What was his motivation to do this on purpose?
Because he had the inside track that Brian Dabble had got hired before they even conducted the actual interview with Flores. He probably saw it as morally wrong because Flores and Dable was underneath him at one point. Those are his guys. Yeah. He loves Flores a lot. He didn't like seeing him go to Miami, but he loves him a lot. And because of that, he saw that is a bigger issue than being talked about. And so he went ahead and kind of threw a log into the fire to get it started, kind of helped get the kindling and everything going or whatnot. So that's my thought. Like I said, I'm all about a good conspiracy theory. I think he did it on purpose to help his boy Brian Flores see that, hey man, that interview you're about to do, it's a sham. They're gonna lie to you. No matter what they say to you, it ain't gonna be true.
I mean, the Belichick piece, like, really, it's not going to be that useful unless there is some type of, like, how he received. They're going to ask him when they bring him in, okay, where did you get the information from that the team was going to hire Brian Daboll in this days before they were set to interview Brian Flores? So if it wasn't substantial in the sense of he got it from maybe, John Maher himself, right, or someone like that who said, we are hiring Brian Daboll. If it was, we really love Daboll, or we're really leaning towards him, or he's probably going to get the job, then it's not going to be useful because that's not them saying, and it's not them in print saying or through audio saying that we're going to hire him, even though they're set to hire Brian Flores. So as interesting as that deposition video is going to be, especially when it gets uploaded on YouTube, like a lot of other famous people's depositions over different things, I don't think it's going to be that useful. But at the same time, I think that despite that, this is like all the issues, and we've talked about this before, and we've made jokes about it. It's something that we all kind of know or talk about or think about when it comes to sports in the black community. Like you talk about that black coaches always get these cleanup jobs, that they get fired within a year, that they're put in unfair circumstances where they don't have their quarterback, yet they're expected to go deep into the playoffs. So it's like all that just comes to a head in this particular case. Everything that we've seen and everything we've talked about. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember how we got this or how we got on this, but didn't we know that Stephen Ross and the Dolphins wanted Brian Flores to tank games and he said no?
Yeah,
so we know this like How do we know that? I don't remember how we knew that, but we talked about this. How do we know that?
Tanking for Tua at the time. Remember, he got hired before Tua was there, so it was a preparation to get a quarterback that they wanted. So we knew that the minute that Flores got there, they hired him to tank. Yeah. They hired him to lose games, and that's what happens with majority of the black coaches that we see taking all these jobs. We'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but Lovie Smith's getting this Houston job. David Culley had this job with the Texans, right? He got hired there to lose. He got fired because he didn't lose. Like,
he didn't lose enough. Yeah,
he didn't lose enough. They needed to be lower, and they thought that bringing him in, they would be bad, and then they could easily make him the scapegoat and go forward. And no, now, unfortunately for them, they're paying him $22 million to go away, which this is Culley's biggest payday. But Culley's been around for 30 plus years, and he finally got the opportunity to be a head coach, and he actually showed that he's capable. He was winning games that he was not supposed to. But this is the common trend that we see in the NFL, and the problem is that no matter how much we try to get this to be fixed, what this Flores lawsuit does, as much as I appreciate him putting himself out there and falling on the sword for everyone and bringing this to light, all this is going to do is make the owners be a lot more careful about all the sneaky shit they're doing in the background.
Right. So we want to continue to operate the way that we do, but we're just going to have to do it differently. Like, I mean, racism, operated that way once. Okay, exactly. So we can't call you an N-word to your face, but there are certain things we can do to exclude you or make it difficult for you to advance, which is coming out of how we think about you and how we've always thought about you. So I do agree with you that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see where the lawsuit goes. We'll keep tabs. Of course, we'll talk about it more here on the show. So keep your eyes open with that.